Okay, I think we're ready to start. I'm just going to check and make sure that this is live on Facebook. So bear with me for a minute. Trying to check my phone. Okay, I think we're ready. Hi, I'm Anne Katz. I'm Director of Arts Wisconsin. And this is Creative Wisconsin Month. So I am here to talk about what's happening in the advocacy front, both statewide and federal. And I'm not sure this is going live, but if it isn't, then we'll be able to post it later because I'm recording it. I don't know if anybody's on the Zoom call with me, but if there are questions, then we'll get to them. I'll get to them afterwards. Please feel free to send me a question at info@artswisconsin.org or post it on Facebook. And we'll have lots of information on Facebook and after that throughout the month. So I have to thank our Arts Wisconsin supporters who make our work possible. And we're very grateful for all the support we get from organizations, businesses, foundations, individuals around the state. So, as I said, this is Creative Wisconsin Month, and we are celebrating everything creative about the state. We launched on April 1st with Dasha Kelly Hamilton, who is the state's poet laureate, and we had a great conversation about poetry and life. And we are having a series of conversations during the month to examine different aspects of what's happening in the arts, culture, and creativity around the state. When I say the arts, I mean everything connected with creative endeavors. That means nonprofit organizations, excuse me, independent artists, media, graphic design, architecture, anything to do with a creative endeavor is what we're concerned about. We're also concerned about local government, economic development, education for the 21st century, vibrant communities. So that's the work that Arts Wisconsin does. I'm going to start off with some data because it's always good to frame the conversation. In the last few years, the U.S. Department of Commerce and the National Endowment for the Arts, federal agencies have joined together to look at the economic impact of the arts sector. Now, let me say right off the bat that we all know and we all feel and believe that the reason that the arts are important is because the arts are important. Humans have to be creative. We've been creative since the beginning of time. You can't stop that creative spirit that's in all of us. And if there's anything we've learned during the pandemic, and we've learned many things which we don't even know about yet, we all have to be very creative to figure out how to get through every day in a world where we don't really know what's coming next. So creativity is inherent to the human condition, and that's why it's important. Added on to that is the fact that creativity is a force. And in the 21st century, it's really a force for change. It's what powers our economy. It's what helps educate our kids. It's what enlivens our communities. So we are able to measure the economic impact of the arts sector in ways that we were not able to before. So the U.S. Department of Commerce and the NEA have gotten together to analyze 35 different creative industries, again, nonprofit organizations, media, architecture, design, for-profit businesses, independent entrepreneurs. And they came up with a real number of value added to the state's economy, which is 10.1 billion with a B, dollars. That's pretty impressive. The other impressive number is that there are over 96,000 jobs, at least before the pandemic. There were 96,000 jobs involved in the creative sector. Now, that is more jobs than the state's beer, biotech, and papermaking industries. All of those industries have fewer than 96,000 jobs. So these are numbers that show that there's an economic impact as well as an intangible human impact of the arts. And now we get to the pandemic, which of course has impacted, I don't even have to say how it's impacted all of us. But Americans for the Arts has been looking at the negative economic impact of the arts pretty much since the shutdown started to happen last March of 2020. They have surveyed nonprofit organizations, independent artists, audiences, and there's a lot of information which we'll post as follow-up. Nationally, the negative impact, the financial loss is over $15 billion. In Wisconsin, it's over $58 million. This is probably underreported because people are busy and they don't necessarily have time to enter the data into the database, but we do know that there's been a significant negative impact on the fact that there is that the art sector was one of the first to shut down and will be one of the last to reopen. Things are starting to reopen now, which is good, but again, it's going to be a process. It's not going to be one day we're all going to throw our doors open and say, great, we're open. It's going to be figuring out what the public health guidelines are, what the impact of the virus is, how many people are vaccinated, et cetera. But you can see from this chart that there's a significant impact that we have all been feeling. Just to go over what the federal government has been doing, which has been quite a lot in the last year to mitigate some of the impact. Through the Wisconsin Department of Administration, over $40 million has come to the state's creative sector. So that was 15 million for cultural organizations, nonprofit organizations, over 15 million for live venues, facilities that present live music, for profit and nonprofit, and then $10 million for movie theaters, which is part of the creative economy. That has been, that came out last year, very important funding. The National Endowment for the Arts provided money through the Wisconsin Arts Board and Arts Midwest, over $500,000. And there is still something that is called the Shuttered Venue Operators Grants. Originally, it was called Save Our Stages. Now it's called SVAG. There is still $15 billion nationally to be distributed to live music venues and performing organizations. That application deadline is starts on April 8th. And so that money will start to roll out soon. That's a whole other piece of money that we haven't even seen yet. And so that will come into the state and help organizations. Again, live music venues are definitely some of the last that will be able to reopen because they're indoors. People sit next to each other. It's going to take a while for people to feel comfortable with that, even if they are vaccinated and even as the pandemic eases, which we pray keeps happening. In the FY 2021 budget, federal budget, there has been money for both the NEA and the NEH, and money and administrative language that allows grants to be used for operating support instead of project support. There's money for the Institute of Museum Library Services, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, some of which goes to Wisconsin Public Radio, more money for arts education, and then significant funding for municipalities and local government, which can be used and is being used for arts endeavors, which we have been advocating for and will need to do more of that. So we're working on, this is what we focus on in terms of policy and legislative action. Arts Wisconsin is a 501c3 organization, and we also advocate in the public realm. That means we not only educate decision makers about the value and the impact of the creative sector, but we also contract with lobbyists. We also have a team of lobbyists that is advising us. We work with the Wisconsin Ethics Commission to make sure everything is above board. And we have been doing that kind of work for the last 10 years. So we are focused on creative workforce, creative jobs, creative businesses, cultural planning, creative economy development, community vitality, quality of life, and access, equity, inclusivity for all. So those are all the issues that we are focused on, and I'll talk a little bit in a minute about the specific things that we're focusing on during this budget season. So the state budget process. Every 2 years, the state of Wisconsin, the government review introduces its spending priorities for the 2 years ahead. So Governor Evers introduced his version of the budget in mid-February. Starting this week on Friday, the Joint Finance Committee, which is the budget review committee made up of senators and assembly people, they will start holding hearings. There's a hearing in Whitewater on Friday. There's a hearing in Rhinelander on April 21st, and there's a hearing on April 22nd in Menominee. And then there's going to be a virtual hearing on April 28th. If anybody wants to see politics at work, you should come to a Joint Finance Committee hearing and testify, because it's quite an experience. And by the way, if you do want to do that, get in touch with me and let me know. I'll be happy to arrange that for you. We are having people testify at some of these hearings. There will also be a lot of opportunities for people to testify or make their opinions known outside of the hearings. We have our Legislative Action Center is a service that we provide a template message. You add your personal details, you include your address, and it goes right to the governor and the legislators. And so we will be having ways for people to be doing that as the month wears on. In fact, the last day of Creative Wisconsin Month, April 30th is going to be a day when we're really going to encourage people to get in touch with legislators and speak up for the arts. And I'll talk about the specific ask in a minute. In May, the legislature will craft its version of the budget, and the legislature has already made it clear that they will be crafting their own version of the budget. As we all know, we have a pretty divided government. We have, at the moment, we have a Democratic governor and a Republican majority legislature. Don't always see eye to eye. The governor has his budget, the legislature is going to have their budget. It's going to be quite a process. Hi, Leslie. At the end of the day, the budget, in whatever version it is, will be sent to the governor, and the governor will decide how he wants to release it into the world. The Wisconsin governor has a fair amount of power when it comes to adapting the final version of the budget. And by that, I mean the governor can cross out lines of the budget. Can't change language, but he can cross things out. And so governors over time, Democrat and Republican, have used that ability to craft their own version of the budget that gets signed at the end. So, it's like sausages being made. It's quite a process. The budget by law has to be signed by the governor by June 30th. There have been years in the past where if the budget deliberations have gone as far as October, which is not what you want, because government kind of stalls if that happens. But legally, the budget is supposed to be signed by June 30th, and then on July 1st, the new budget spending year starts. So we will keep you posted every step of the way. It's going to be very interesting. It is very interesting. I mean, we may not all want to pay attention to politics, but we all should pay attention to politics, because every aspect of this budget affects every aspect of our lives, whether we think it does or not. When it comes to taxes, education, economic development, all of those things are what the budget says that Wisconsin can do. So it behooves all of us to pay attention and to try to have an impact. Let's see, what else do I want to see? Okay, so before I talk about what we can do, I want to talk about the kinds of things that we're working on. So the governor's budget included funding for the Arts Board to create a creative economy development program. And this is something that Arts Wisconsin has been working on for a number of years to get a program that's going to recognize 21st century development and help Wisconsin invest in its creative people, businesses, and communities. And so we appreciate the fact that the governor has put that into the budget. That's one provision. There's also a provision that fixes an administrative problem, which is that there's a little bit of language in the legislation that makes it hard for the Arts Board to accept increased funding from the National Endowment for the Arts, which is good. We want the increased funding, but it has to be matched. So it's an administrative thing. Hopefully that will stay in the budget so that can be fixed and not have to be considered by joint finance. There is also provision to support a Native American burial ground project at UW-Stevens Point, which the Arts Board would oversee. So those are in the governor's version of the budget. It is unknown whether any of those will be included in the legislature's version of the budget. So Arts Wisconsin is also working on a creative economy development initiative that is similar to the one that the governor has introduced. It is more focused on rural development. We have been talking to legislators and getting them to understand that this is what Wisconsin needs. So I feel enthusiastic and optimistic that the final version of the budget will include a program that supports creative economy development. The legislators, whatever side of the aisle they're on, they know that this is what Wisconsin needs. They know that we need to invest in creativity, in 21st century development. So we've been getting a lot of good response from the legislature, and we're going to keep working hard to get that through the budget. So that brings me to what you can do, which is overall, it is important to have your legislators on your side, to have them know about the work that you do. So you always want to say thanks, for example, say thanks to the federal legislators for supporting the CARES Act funding and the American Rescue Program funding, and whatever other budget initiatives are out there. You want to say thanks to state representatives when they do something that indicates that they're supporting the creative economy. So that's just, you want to make sure that they know about your programs. You want to make sure that they're on your newsletter lists. You want them to, you can invite them to come and speak at a performance. When we have a performance, you can invite them to write for your newsletter. There's lots of ways that you can make friends with your legislators. And most of you out there in the world know how to do that. Wisconsin is very good at advocacy, but I can't stress it enough that having a relationship with your elected officials is critically important. Arts Wisconsin has its Legislative Action Center that makes, as I said, makes it easy to send a message. Americans for the Arts has the Arts Action Fund. Again, there's a template message. You put in your information, you hit the button, and you send it to your legislator. So those are all tools that you can use. As I said, there will be information coming out as the Joint Finance Committee hearings end, and as that will by the end of April, and as the legislators deliberate the budget in May. May is going to be the time when we're going to ask people to contact their legislators to ask for support in the budget for creative economy development and investment. So watch for that. If you want to come to a Joint Finance Committee hearing, that'd be great. But there'll be lots of ways to connect virtually as well. We are all mindful of the fact that connecting in person is not, we're not quite there yet. But we do have a lot of ways that you can connect through letter writing, emailing, Zooming, all those ways. So Arts Wisconsin will help share that information as we go forward, and we're going to keep reminding you that we want the legislators to know that the creative economy is important to Wisconsin's future. We all know that. but we want them to know it. They know it too. We just have to keep reminding them, and we have to keep reminding them that not only is it important, but it's critically important to make that investment. So, so that's, we're going to keep asking you to do that. The other thing I'll say is that we're doing Creative Wisconsin Month all throughout the
I don't know if
month
I
of
want to
April.
do this.
And
Look, I'm the only one who. Um.
Leslie, are you there? Um, we're going to make sure that everybody, we're going to keep reminding people to participate in Creative Wisconsin Month. So we'll send out that link. It's artswisconsin.org. Go to Creative Wisconsin Month, and then we will find ways for you to participate. And with that, I think that's it. Leslie, do you have any questions since you're the one on the screen? I know that people are watching on Facebook Live, so we'll see if there are ways for people to connect that way. But please get in touch as when you can, and thanks for your good work.